I stood frozen in my own doorway, watching as my mother-in-law's Louis Vuitton luggage claimed more and more territory in my foyer. One bag, then three, then seven. The pit in my stomach grew with each thud of designer leather hitting my hardwood floors. My name is Camila, and this was the moment my perfect life began to unravel. Darling, where's Hugh? Surely he didn't expect his own mother to carry these bags upstairs herself. Samantha's voice carried that familiar sing-song tone that made my teeth ache. He's still at work, I managed, forcing a smile. I thought you were staying for the weekend. Samantha laughed, the sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. Oh, sweetie, didn't Hugh tell you? After my divorce, I simply can't bear to stay in that empty house. I'll be here until I find my footing again. My chest tightened. But, now, show me to the master suite, she interrupted, already climbing our stairs. The master suite? But that's our... Camila, dear, she turned, her perfectly manicured hand gripping the banister. I raised Hugh in a 7-bedroom estate. I simply cannot be expected to sleep in a guest room like some visiting cousin. I'm still the queen here. I followed her upstairs, words of protest dying in my throat as she flung open our bedroom door. The bedroom Hugh and I had spent months perfecting, from the Egyptian cotton sheets to the custom blackout curtains. Perfect, she declared, already opening our closet. Hugh can move your things to the guest room this evening. My phone buzzed. A text from Hugh. Mom told you about staying with us, right? Sorry, crazy day at work. Love you. I gripped my phone so hard I thought it might crack. Samantha, we didn't discuss... Oh, look at these hangers! She was already removing my clothes. Wire hangers? Camila, darling, no wonder Hugh's suits always look so wrinkled. I'll have my proper hangers delivered tomorrow. My clothes landed in a heap on the floor. Andrea, I texted my best friend with trembling fingers. Code red. Need wine. Now. I'll order some new bedding too, Samantha continued, oblivious to my mounting horror. This, she gestured vaguely at our carefully chosen duvet, is a bit young, don't you think? The doorbell rang, and I nearly sprinted downstairs. Andrea stood there, holding 2 bottles of red wine and wearing her shit's about to go down face. I came as fast as I could, she whispered, following me to the kitchen. What's the emergency? Before I could answer, Samantha's voice floated down. Camilla, be a dear and bring up some hangers from the guest room. And perhaps some tea. Earl Grey, 2 sugars, splash of milk. You remember how I like it, don't you? Andrea's eyes widened. Is that... I nodded, uncorking the first bottle with unnecessary force. What is she doing here? Moving in, apparently, I hissed, pouring a generous glass. She's currently redecorating my bedroom because she's still the queen. Oh, hell no! Andrea grabbed the second glass. Please tell me Hugh didn't agree to this? Hugh didn't even tell me until after she arrived. He texted me like it was nothing. Like, hey honey, my mother's moving in, taking our bedroom, and apparently I'm sleeping in the guest room now. Love you. Camila? Samantha called again. That tea? Coming! I shouted back, my voice honey-sweet even as I knocked back half my wine. Andrea grabbed my arm. You're not actually going to let her stay, are you? I stared at the ceiling, where I could hear Samantha's heels clicking back and forth. Of course not, I whispered, a plan already forming in my mind. But sometimes, you have to play the long game. You have to let the queen think she's won before you can checkmate her. Camila, the tea? I poured hot water over a tea bag, adding exactly 2 sugars and precisely the right amount of milk. As I carried it upstairs, I saw my clothes still crumpled on the floor, designer labels mixed with Target bargains in an undignified heap. Your tea, Samantha, I said, setting it beside her on my nightstand. She didn't look up from her phone. Thank you, dear. Oh, and we'll need to discuss the kitchen tomorrow. The organization is a bit chaotic. I can help you sort it properly. I smiled, tight-lipped. Of course, whatever you think is best. Back in the kitchen, Andrea was already pouring me another glass. So what's the plan? I took a long sip, remembering the property papers tucked away in my office desk. The ones that, for tax purposes, listed me as the sole owner of our house. The ones Samantha knew nothing about. The plan, I said quietly, is to let her think she's won. For now. Andrea clinked her glass against mine. Long live the Queen? I smiled, but this time it reached my eyes. Not for long. 2 weeks into Samantha's reign, I found myself hiding in my own pantry, clutching my phone like a lifeline. She reorganized my spice rack alphabetically, I whispered to Andrea. Who organizes spices alphabetically? Cumin should be next to taco seasoning, not coriander. That's what broke you? The spice rack? Andrea's laugh crackled through the speaker. No, what broke me was finding her throwing out my grandmother's recipe box because it was cluttering up the counter. I had to dig it out of the trash. The kitchen door swung open. I held my breath. Camila? Samantha's voice rang out. Are you in here talking to yourself again? I emerged from the pantry, phone behind my back. Just checking our grocery needs. Oh, good. While you're here, she pulled out a thick binder. I've created a new cleaning schedule. I noticed the baseboards haven't been dusted in quite some time. I stared at the color-coded tabs and laminated pages. I work full-time, Samantha. Well, yes, dear, but surely you can manage basic housekeeping? When Hugh was growing up, I maintained a spotless home while hosting charity events twice a month. The front door opened, and Hugh's voice called out, I'm home! Samantha's face lit up. There's my boy! She rushed to greet him, leaving the binder on the counter like a ticking bomb. I followed slowly, watching their reunion, the same one they performed every evening, as if they hadn't seen each other in years instead of hours. Mom, something smells amazing, Hugh said, kissing her cheek. Just a little coq au vin. I noticed Camila's attempts at French cooking were a bit elementary. I cleared my throat. Actually, Hugh, can we talk? Privately? He followed me to our new bedroom, the guest room that still felt temporary, like a hotel suite we couldn't check out of. What's up? He asked, loosening his tie. Your mother threw out my grandmother's recipes today. I'm sure she didn't mean. She's reorganized every cabinet, replaced our bedding, and now she's created a cleaning schedule that would challenge a professional maid service. Hugh sat on the bed with Samantha's chosen sheets. She's just trying to help, Cam. She's going through a tough time with the divorce. And what about what I'm going through? My voice cracked. This is our home, Hugh. Ours, not hers. Hugh? Samantha's voice floated up the stairs. Dinner's ready. I've set the table with my Wedgwood china. The ones you grew up with, remember? Hugh stood, straightening his tie again. Let's just get through dinner. We can talk more later. But we didn't talk more later. We never did. At dinner, I pushed perfectly cooked chicken around my plate, while Samantha regaled us with stories of Hugh's childhood. Remember that summer in Martha's Vineyard, when you won the junior sailing competition? Hugh nodded, mouth full of wine-braised vegetables. He was always such a natural leader, she told me, as if I hadn't known Hugh for 12 years. I knew he'd be successful. Mother's intuition. My phone buzzed under the table. Andrea. Found something interesting in your mail pile. Old letter from your sister? I excused myself, ignoring Samantha's comment about phones at the dinner table, and retrieved the letter from Andrea's house. In the bathroom, I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Savannah's handwriting was as familiar as my own, even after 5 years of silence. Dear Camila, I know we haven't spoken since Mom's funeral, but I need to warn you about Samantha. She did the same thing to me and Jake when we bought our first house. Moved in after her temporary setback, took over everything. By the time we realized what was happening, our marriage was in shambles. Don't let her do to you what she did to us. Love, Savannah. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, hearing Samantha's laughter drift up from the dining room. 5 years ago, I'd thought Savannah was being dramatic about her mother-in-law. Now I understood. Back at the table, Samantha was serving her creme brulee. I'll teach you how to make it properly someday, Camila. It's really not as difficult as you might think. I smiled, tucking Savannah's letter into my pocket. That would be lovely, Samantha. But my mind was already racing. If Samantha had done this before, there had to be a way to stop her, and my sister might just be the key to figuring out how. Under the table, I typed a quick message to a number I hadn't used in years. Sav, it's Cam. You were right about everything. Can we talk? The response came almost immediately. I've been waiting for this call. When and where? For the first time in 2 weeks, I felt hope stirring. Samantha might be playing chess, but she didn't know I had just found my queen. The coffee shop was 15 miles from my house, far enough that Samantha wouldn't accidentally drop in for a surprise visit. I spotted Savannah immediately, her copper hair just like I remembered. 5 years melted away as she wrapped me in a fierce hug. You look exactly the same, she said, pulling back to study my face. You look tired, I replied, noting the shadows under her eyes. That's what divorce does to you. She gestured to a corner table. But we're not here to talk about my failed marriage. Over lattes, I detailed the past 3 weeks. The bedroom takeover, the kitchen reorganization, the cleaning schedules. Savannah nodded along, occasionally wincing. God, it's like watching a replay, she said. Did she do the thing where she accidentally shrinks your favorite clothes in the wash? Last week, my cashmere sweater. And the passive-aggressive comments about your cooking? Yesterday, she told Hugh she was worried about his cholesterol because of my heavy-handed approach to butter. Savannah reached across the table, gripping my hand. Listen carefully, Cam. This isn't about helping a divorced woman get back on her feet. It's about control. She did the exact same thing to Jake and me. Started with the master bedroom, then reorganized our lives until we forgot what normal felt like. How long did she stay with you? 18 months. Savannah's knuckles went white around her cup. By the end, Jake and I were sleeping in separate rooms. He couldn't understand why I couldn't just get along with his mother. Sound familiar? My phone buzzed. A text from Samantha. Noticed you left without breakfast. I'm making Hugh's favorite quiche for dinner. Should I expect you? She tracks my meals now, I said, showing Savannah the text. Of course she does. Next, she'll start inviting Hugh's single female colleagues to dinner. I nearly choked on my coffee. She did that last night, some new attorney named Rachel. Because nothing motivates a daughter-in-law like a little competition. Savannah pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. But here's what Samantha doesn't know. I kept everything. Every manipulative text, every bank statement showing how much she spent improving our house, every legal document from when we finally got her out. How did you do it? We were lucky. The house was in my name because Jake's credit was bad. When we finally grew spines, we had a lawyer friend draw up eviction papers. She paused. Whose name is on your house? Mine, for tax purposes. A slow smile spread across Savannah's face. Then you have options. I'm sending you my lawyer's number. Tucker Armstrong. He's dealt with cases like this before. But Hugh will be upset? Yeah. Jake didn't speak to me for weeks. But ask yourself this. Would you rather have a few weeks of tension or years of watching your marriage dissolve under Samantha's reign? My phone buzzed again. Samantha. Also noticed some mold in the guest bathroom. I've scheduled a remodel. Don't worry about the cost. Consider it my gift. She's remodeling my bathroom without asking, I said flatly. Of course she is. Savannah pulled out a notebook. Start documenting everything. Every unauthorized change. Every manipulation. Every dime she spends. Tucker will need it all. I feel like I'm plotting a coup. You are. But it's your house, Cam. Your life. She squeezed my hand again. And unlike me, you caught it early. You still have a chance to save your marriage. Another text from Samantha. The contractors need access at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I used your credit card for the deposit. Hope that's okay. I showed Savannah the message, my hands shaking with anger. And there's your smoking gun, she said, already dialing a number. Tucker, it's Savannah. Remember my sister-in-law I mentioned? She's ready to talk. As Savannah arranged the meeting, I stared at my phone, at the stream of texts from Samantha detailing all the ways she was helping improve my life. Each message felt like another brick in the wall between Hugh and me. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., Savannah announced, ending the call. Tucker will show you exactly what you need to do. What if it doesn't work? It will. Because this time you have something I didn't. What's that? Me. Savannah's smile was fierce. And I've been waiting 5 years to see Samantha Steele finally face consequences. My phone buzzed one final time. Hugh. Mom says you're out. Everything okay? I looked at Savannah, at the strength in her eyes, and typed back, "Everything's about to be." "Ready to dethrone a queen?" Savannah asked, standing. I gathered my things, feeling stronger than I had in weeks. "More than ready. It's time to take back my castle." Tucker Armstrong's office smelled like leather and confidence. He studied the stack of documents I'd brought: property deed, bank statements, texts, and photos of Samantha's improvements to my home. "Well," he said, leaning back in his chair, "this is actually simpler than I expected." "Simple?" I shifted in my seat. "Nothing about this feels simple. Legally speaking, it is." He tapped the property deed. "The house is solely in your name. Your mother-in-law has no legal right to be there without your consent, let alone make modifications or charge expenses to your credit card." "But she's Hugh's mother." "And you're Hugh's wife, living in a house you legally own." He pulled out a yellow legal pad. "Let's talk numbers. How much has she spent on unauthorized renovations?" I handed him the credit card statement. His eyebrows shot up. $12,000 on bathroom remodeling? She said the existing fixtures were depressing. And these furniture deliveries? New dining room set. She donated our old one to charity. Tucker's pen scratched across the pad. "Without your permission?" She said it was a surprise. A surprise that cost $8,000. He shook his head. "Mrs. Owens, this isn't just overstepping. It's financial abuse." The word abuse hit me like a slap. I didn't want to make waves. "That's exactly what she's counting on." He pulled out a folder. "Your sister-in-law's case was similar, but you have something she didn't. Clear documentation of financial misconduct." My phone buzzed. Samantha. "The contractors found issues with the plumbing, adding another $5K to the renovation. Don't worry, I handled it." I showed Tucker the message. He immediately reached for a form. "That's it. We're filing today." He started filling out paperwork. "First, we'll freeze your credit cards. Then we'll issue a formal eviction notice giving her 30 days to vacate." 30 days? My stomach churned. "I have to live with her for another month?" "Unfortunately, yes, but we'll include a cease and desist regarding any further modifications or financial transactions." He slid the papers across his desk. "Sign here and here." My hand trembled over the signature line. "What about Hugh?" "Your husband's feelings are valid, but they don't override your legal rights. This is your property, your money, and your life being systematically dismantled." I signed. Tucker nodded approvingly. "I'll have these filed within the hour. Expect the official notice by tomorrow morning." "She'll fight this." "Let her try." He handed me his card. "Document everything from here on out. Every conversation, every action, every dime spent. If she escalates, we'll be ready." Back in my car, I called Savannah. "It's done," I said. "I filed the papers. How do you feel?" "Terrified, relieved, guilty." I gripped the steering wheel. "How did Hugh take it when you and Jake—" "He didn't speak to me for 3 months, called me heartless, cruel, ungrateful." She paused. "But you know what? Years later, after their divorce, Jake told me he wished he'd listened to me sooner." My phone dinged with another text. "Hugh this time. Mom says you missed the contractor meeting. Everything okay? You've been acting strange lately." "I can't keep lying to him," I told Savannah. "Then don't. Tell him tonight before the papers arrive. Give him a chance to process it privately." I started the car, resolve strengthening. "Will you stay on standby?" "I'll keep my phone on all night. You've got this, Cam." Driving home, I rehearsed what I'd say, but all my carefully planned speeches evaporated when I walked in to find Samantha directing workers to tear out my grandmother's antique vanity. "Oh good, you're home," she chirped. "I hope you don't mind, but since we're already renovating, I thought we should do the master bath too. Hugh's ensuite should match mine, don't you think?" I stared at the workers dismantling my bathroom, at the credit card receipt sitting proudly on the counter, at this woman who'd taken over my life piece by piece. "Actually, Samantha," I said, my voice steady, "I do mind. I mind very much." She blinked, that practiced confusion crossing her face. "But darling—" "Stop the work," I told the contractors. "Now." "Camila!" Samantha's voice rose. Don't be ridiculous. Hugh, we'll be home in 20 minutes, I finished, and it's time we all had a talk about boundaries. I pulled out my phone and texted Hugh, "Come straight home. We need to talk, all of us." His reply was immediate. "On my way. Everything okay?" I watched Samantha directing the confused contractors to continue working, already planning how to spin this to Hugh. "No," I typed back, "but it will be." Hugh's footsteps on the porch felt like thunderclaps. I stood in our demolished bathroom, contractors frozen mid-demolition, Samantha's face a mask of practiced concern. "What's going on?" Hugh asked, taking in the scene. "Mom said something about renovations?" "Your wife is having some sort of episode," Samantha said, reaching for his arm. "She's trying to stop the improvements I'm making for us." "Improvements?" I pulled out my phone. "Let's talk about improvements, Samantha. 12,000 for the guest bath, 8,000 for dining room furniture, and now this?" I gestured at the destruction around us. "Another 15,000 you charged to my credit card without asking?" Hugh's face paled. "Mom?" "Darling, I was only trying to help. This house needed updating, and Camila clearly doesn't have the experience to— "To what?" I interrupted. "To decorate my own home? To manage my own money?" "Our home," Hugh said quietly. "Our money. Actually," I took a deep breath, "legally it's not. The house is in my name. The credit cards she's been using are in my name." Samantha's smile tightened. "Hugh, sweetie, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Camila's clearly done," I finished. "Gentlemen," I addressed the contractors, "please pack up your tools. This renovation is canceled." "You can't do that." Samantha stepped forward. "Hugh, tell her she can't do that." But Hugh was staring at the credit card statements I'd laid out on the counter. $35,000? Mom, what were you thinking? "I was thinking about your future. This house was barely livable when I arrived." "We loved this house," I said. "Every imperfect, lived-in inch of it, until you arrived and decided to remake it in your image." "Hugh," Samantha's voice wavered, "surely you can see I was only trying to help, to give you the kind of home you deserve? By destroying my grandmother's vanity?" I pointed to the antique piece, now in pieces. "By throwing out my family recipes? By taking our bedroom and pushing us into the guest room? I deserve—" "Nothing," I cut in. "You deserve nothing. This isn't your house. These aren't your decisions to make." Hugh picked up a receipt. "Mom, did you really donate our dining room set without asking?" "It was outdated." "It was our first major purchase together," he said. "We saved for months. I replaced it with something better. With my money," I added. "Without my permission." The contractors shuffled awkwardly. "Ma'am, should we continue, or—" "Pack up," I repeated. "The renovation is canceled." "Hugh!" Samantha protested, but Hugh was still reading receipts. "Interior designer consultation, new landscaping contract. Mom, this is insane." "What's insane?" Samantha drew herself up. "Is how ungrateful you both are. After everything I've done." "Everything you've done?" I laughed. "You mean like inviting Rachel from Hugh's office to dinner? Trying to make me feel inadequate? Remaking our home without our consent?" Hugh's head snapped up. "You invited Rachel? She's a lovely girl." "She's my colleague, Mom, and I'm married to someone who clearly doesn't appreciate—" "Stop!" Hugh's voice was firm. "Just stop." Silence fell. Even the contractors stopped gathering their tools. "Gentlemen," Hugh addressed them, "thank you for your time, but we won't be needing your services." They couldn't leave fast enough. "Hugh," Samantha tried again, "let's discuss this rationally." "Rationally?" I pulled out one final paper. "Okay, let's be rational. This is an eviction notice. You have 30 days to leave our home." The color drained from Samantha's face. "You wouldn't dare." "I already have. The papers will arrive officially tomorrow." "Hugh!" She turned to him. "Are you going to let her do this to your mother?" Hugh looked from the credit card statements to the demolished bathroom to his mother's face. "What choice have you left us?" But I'm your mother, and I'm his wife," I said quietly. "And this is my house. 30 days, Samantha." She drew herself up, tears gathering. "You'll regret this, both of you." As she stormed upstairs, her heels clicking like angry exclamation points, Hugh sank onto the edge of the bathtub. I had no idea, he whispered, about any of it. I sat beside him amid the debris of our bathroom. I know. What do we do now? From upstairs came the sound of doors slamming, drawers banging. Now, I said, taking his hand, we take back our home, one room at a time. He squeezed my fingers. Starting with our bedroom? I smiled, hearing Samantha's muffled ranting through the ceiling. Starting with our bedroom. The first week after serving the eviction notice was like living in a war zone. Samantha alternated between icy silence and tearful accusations, while Hugh struggled to maintain his composure through it all. She's your mother, I said one morning, watching him stare into his coffee. You're allowed to feel conflicted. She charged $35,000 to your credit cards, Cam. He rubbed his face. Who does that? A door slammed upstairs, followed by theatrical sobbing. Someone who's never faced consequences, I answered. The doorbell rang. Hugh tensed. We'd both grown to dread unexpected visitors since Samantha had started inviting random neighbors over to witness her mistreatment. But it was Andrea, bearing breakfast burritos and moral support. Thought you might need reinforcements, she said, setting down the food. I saw Samantha at Starbucks this morning, telling everyone who'd listen about her cruel daughter-in-law. Wonderful, I muttered. What's the damage? She tried to convince the barista you're holding her hostage. Andrea unwrapped a burrito, but most people seemed more interested in their lattes than her drama. Hugh's phone buzzed. His face fell as he read the message. Mom's sister wants to talk to me, he said. Says I need to see reason before it's too late. Too late for what? I asked. According to this, too late to save my soul from my gold-digging wife. Andrea choked on her burrito. Gold digging? You make more than Camila does. Facts don't matter anymore, I said. We're off script, and Samantha's rewriting the narrative. More footsteps overhead. Then Samantha appeared in the doorway, perfectly made up despite the early hour. Oh, she said, voice dripping with disdain. Company. Would you like a burrito? Andrea offered, ever polite. I don't eat processed food. Samantha turned to Hugh. Darling, did you get Carol's message? Your aunt is very concerned. Mom, Hugh's voice was tired. Please don't involve the whole family in this. But they're already involved. Everyone's talking about how your wife is throwing me out on the street. You have 3 houses, I pointed out. That's not the point, Samantha's voice rose. The point is respect, family, values you clearly know nothing about. Values like asking before spending thousands of dollars on unwanted renovations. I was improving your life. No, Hugh stood up suddenly. You were controlling it, like you always have. Samantha stepped back, shocked. Hugh! Mom, I love you, but Cam's right. This has to stop. After everything I've sacrificed for you. Sacrifice? Hugh laughed, a harsh sound. You're living in our house, spending our money, trying to drive a wedge between me and my wife. That's not sacrifice, that's sabotage. Andrea quietly gathered her things. I should go. No, stay, Samantha sneered. Watch how this ungrateful boy treats his mother, the woman who gave him life. The woman who's trying to ruin mine, Hugh shot back. The room fell silent. Even Samantha seemed stunned by his outburst. You don't mean that? She whispered. Don't I? You moved in without asking, took over our bedroom, spent money we'd saved for starting a family on renovations we didn't want. Starting a family? Samantha latched onto the words. You're trying to have a baby? I felt the blood drain from my face. We hadn't told anyone about the fertility treatments we'd been saving for. The money you spent, Hugh continued, voice shaking, was for IVF. Andrea gasped softly. Samantha's perfect makeup couldn't hide her pallor. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't your business, Hugh exploded. Not everything in my life needs your approval or input. I'm your mother, and I'm a grown man, with a wife I love and a life you're trying to micromanage. Samantha's lips trembled. I see. Well, if that's how you feel. She straightened her shoulders. I'll be staying with Carol until this unfortunate situation is resolved. She swept upstairs, leaving behind the heavy weight of unspoken words. Hugh slumped back into his chair. "I'm sorry," he said to me, "about the IVF money. We'll save up again." I took his hand across the table. "We'll figure it out." Andrea stood quietly. "I'll let myself out. Call if you need anything." After she left, Hugh and I sat in silence, listening to Samantha pack overhead. "She'll be back," I said finally. "I know." He squeezed my hand. "But this time we're ready." A suitcase thumped down the stairs, followed by Samantha's deliberate footsteps. 23 days left," I whispered. Hugh nodded, and we held on to each other as the front door slammed, marking the beginning of the next battle in our war for independence. The final confrontation came 3 days before the eviction deadline. I was sorting through the wreckage of our master bathroom when the front door burst open. "Where is she?" Samantha's voice rang through the house. "Camila!" I found her in our living room, clutching papers and vibrating with rage. Hugh's Aunt Carol hovered behind her like a disapproving shadow. "How dare you?" Samantha thrust the papers at me. "A restraining order?" "You left me no choice." I stood my ground. "You've been harassing our friends, spreading lies at Hugh's office." "I was telling the truth about how you manipulated my son, stole my rightful place." "Your rightful place?" I laughed. "In my house, using my money?" "Our house," she corrected. "Everything Hugh has is because of me." "Actually," Tucker Armstrong's voice cut through the tension as he appeared in the doorway, "everything in this house belongs to Camila." Samantha spun around. "Who are you?" "Tucker Armstrong, Mrs. Owens's attorney." He stepped inside, briefcase in hand. "And you're in violation of the eviction notice by entering this property without permission." "This is a family matter," Carol interjected. "We don't need lawyers." "You made it legal when you started harassing my client's colleagues and attempting to access her bank accounts." Samantha's face flushed. "I did no such thing." Tucker pulled out a folder. "We have documentation of 3 attempts to change Mrs. Owens's banking passwords, all from your IP address, not to mention the defamatory emails sent to her employer. I was warning them about her character." "You were trying to get me fired," I corrected, "just like you did to Savannah." The mention of my sister-in-law made Samantha's nostrils flare. "That ungrateful little—" "Is right here." Savannah stepped in behind Tucker. "Hello, Samantha. Miss me?" "You!" Samantha stepped back. "What are you doing here?" "Supporting my sister-in-law. Someone had to warn her about your playbook." "My playbook?" "Move in, take over, isolate, control." Savannah ticked off points on her fingers. "Sound familiar?" "I was helping." "You were destroying her marriage just like you destroyed mine." Carol moved to Samantha's side. "Now see here." "No, you see here," I interrupted. "I have documentation of every unauthorized charge, every lie, every manipulation. Leave now, or I press charges for harassment and financial fraud." "You wouldn't dare." Samantha's voice shook. "Hugh would never allow it." "I wouldn't allow what?" Hugh appeared in the doorway, looking between us all. "Your wife is threatening me with arrest." "Because you won't stop, Mom." He moved to stand beside me. "Even now you're breaking the eviction order." "Hugh, darling, you can't mean—" "I do mean it." His voice was firm. "You have 2 choices. Leave now and respect the restraining order or face legal consequences." "But I'm your mother. And I'm your son, not your possession." He took my hand. "I choose my wife, my marriage, my life without your interference." Samantha's face crumpled. "After everything I've done for you." "To us," I corrected. "Everything you've done to us." Tucker stepped forward. "Mrs. Steele, please don't make this more difficult. Leave now, or I'll have to call the authorities." "This isn't over," she hissed, but her voice wavered. "Actually," Savannah said, "it is. Just like it was over when you tried this with me and Jake." Carol tugged at Samantha's arm. "Come on, Sam, we're leaving." "My things will be delivered to Carol's house," Tucker said, "as specified in the eviction notice." Samantha straightened her spine, trying for dignity. "You'll regret this. All of you." "No," Hugh said quietly. "The only regret is that it took us this long to stop you." We watched them leave, Carol practically dragging Samantha to her car. As they drove away, Hugh let out a long breath. You okay? I squeezed his hand. Getting there. He looked at Tucker. Thank you, all of you. Tucker nodded, packing up his briefcase. The restraining order is effective immediately. If she violates it... She will, Savannah predicted. Then we'll handle it. He handed me his card. Call me if you need anything else. After Tucker left, Savannah hugged us both. Welcome to the other side, she said. It gets easier. Looking around our living room, our space, finally truly ours again, I felt lighter than I had in months. So, Hugh said, managing a small smile, want to start house hunting for a place without my mother's decorating touches? I laughed, tears pricking my eyes. Actually, I was thinking we could use that master bathroom renovation money for its original purpose instead. He pulled me close. IVF? IVF. Savannah grinned. Now that's what I call a happy ending. No, I corrected, watching the last of Samantha's car disappear down our street. That's what I call a new beginning. The doorbell chimed as I finished arranging fresh flowers in my grandmother's restored vanity, the one piece of furniture we'd managed to save from Samantha's renovation rampage. Coming, I called, checking my reflection. Behind me, our bedroom looked exactly as Hugh and I wanted it, a perfect blend of both our tastes, without a trace of Samantha's improvements. Andrea stood at the door, holding a bottle of champagne. Ready for girls' night? Almost. Just waiting for... I'm here, Savannah called, jogging up the front walk. Sorry, traffic was awful. We settled in the living room, our living room, with our furniture back in place. The dining set we'd saved for had been recovered from the charity shop, restored to its rightful spot. So, Andrea popped the champagne. Have you told them yet? I touched the envelope in my pocket, waiting for the right moment. Tell us what? Savannah accepted a glass. The front door opened, and Hugh walked in with takeout bags. Ladies, he nodded, heading for the kitchen. Hugh, I called. Stay, please. He paused, reading something in my voice. Everything okay? I pulled out the envelope. Remember our appointment last week? The IVF clinic's logo was clearly visible. Hugh's eyes widened. Cam, open it. His hands trembled as he tore the envelope. Andrea and Savannah held their breath. Positive, he whispered. It's positive? I nodded, tears spilling. We're pregnant. The takeout bags hit the floor as Hugh swept me into his arms. Andrea and Savannah cheered, champagne sloshing. Wait, Hugh pulled back. Should you be drinking champagne? Sparkling cider for me, I laughed, showing him my glass. I've got it covered. We're having a baby, he said, wonder in his voice. We're actually... The doorbell rang again. We all froze. Hugh checked his phone, then relaxed. It's just Mom's last box of things. The movers are right on schedule. I squeezed his hand, knowing how hard these past weeks had been. Want me to handle it? No, he straightened. I've got this. We watched through the window as he signed for the box. The movers were professional, efficient, nothing like the chaos of Samantha's hasty departure. Have you heard from her? Andrea asked softly. She sent a card, Hugh said, returning with the box. Through her lawyer, congratulating us on winning. Still doesn't get it, does she? Savannah shook her head. It was never about winning. No, I agreed. It was about boundaries, respect, building our own life. Hugh set the box aside, unopened. Speaking of building, he pulled out his phone, showing us a photo. I found us a house. I leaned in. It's perfect. 4 bedrooms, he scrolled through pictures. Plenty of room for the baby. And look, it has a mother-in-law suite. We all stared at him. Above the garage, he added quickly, with its own entrance and very clear rental terms. Laughter burst out, releasing the last bit of tension. To new beginnings, Andrea raised her glass. And firm boundaries, Savannah added. And family, Hugh pulled me close. The kind we choose to build. I touched my still flat stomach, thinking of the life growing there. A life that would know love without conditions, support without control. The movers are booked for next month, Hugh continued. Fresh start, fresh place. No alphabetized spice racks? I teased. Unless you want them. I don't. I picked up Samantha's box. And I don't want this either. Together we carried it to the garage. Whatever memories or manipulations it contained could stay sealed, gathering dust. Back inside, Andrea was already planning the housewarming party while Savannah scrolled through paint samples on her phone. Light gray for the nursery? She suggested. Actually, I curled into Hugh's side. I was thinking yellow. Bright, warm, welcoming. Yellow, he agreed, like sunrise. Like new beginnings, Andrea raised her glass again. Like happiness, Savannah added. I looked around at our chosen family, my sister-in-law who became my ally, my best friend who stood by through everything, my husband who chose love over control. To happiness, I echoed, raising my sparkling cider, and to writing our own story. The setting sun streamed through our windows without Samantha's heavy drapes, painting everything in gold. Outside, a sold sign swayed in our front yard, promising new adventures ahead. We were ready, for the baby, for the move, for whatever came next. Because this time, we were facing it together, on our terms, in our way. And somewhere, in an unopened box in our garage, Samantha's version of our story gathered dust, unread and unnecessary. We had our own story to tell now.